People think starting over means starting from nothing, that everything they build no longer matters, that they have to rebuild their identity, confidence, and life from scratch. That is not true, and I want to talk about why. When life changes, whether it is a layoff, divorce, an empty nest, a health scare, or simply waking up one day and realizing you've been living on autopilot, the fear that follows is real. You start to wonder who you are without the title, without that role, without that version of yourself you've been showing up as for years. I know that feeling. When I was laid off at 57, after 36 years in corporate America, 26 of them with the same company, I felt it too. What do I have left? Who am I now? Do I have to start completely from scratch? The fear tells you that everything you built no longer counts, that you're back at zero, that everyone else is ahead of you, that you are starting over at the worst possible time. Fear is very convincing, but fear is not the truth. Here is what is actually true. You are not starting from zero. This is a fresh start, not a blank slate. You're starting with everything you have learned over your career and your lifetime. Every role, every challenge, every hard year, every quiet strength you never gave yourself credit for. None of it disappears. All of it comes with you. You are starting with experience. You know how to navigate difficult people, complex situations, high-pressure moments, and unexpected change. You are starting with resilience. You have already survived things that would have broken an earlier version of you. You are still here, still standing, and still showing up. You are starting with emotional intelligence, the ability to read a room, understand people, stay calm when everything is falling apart. That is not a small thing. That is one of the rarest and most valuable skills a person can have. You're starting with perspective. You know what actually matters now. Not what you thought mattered at 25 or 35. What actually matters, that is worth everything. Let me tell you what I mean from my own life. I spent 22 years as a senior administrative assistant. For a long time, I called it just an admin role. I minimized it constantly. But what I was actually doing was learning how to manage complexity, support leaders, navigate corporate politics, read people, solve problems, and keep everything running quietly behind the scenes. None of that was wasted. At 49, I went back to school. I had dropped out at 19 and made myself a promise that someday I would return. And I kept it. I walked across that stage at 54 with my husband, 2 of my daughters, and my 2.5-year-old grandson watching me. That same season of life, I got my motorcycle license. At 53, I had moved into program management after 22 years in an administrative role. At 54, I was promoted to senior program manager. At 56, to principal program manager. And then at 57, I was laid off by a phone call. And instead of starting over, I started with everything I had already built. I created Stay Sparkle Supply. I started helping women over 50 recognize the strength they had been overlooking in themselves, because I had spent decades overlooking it in myself. And that is why I know this. Nothing you have lived through was wasted. Not 1 year, not one skill, not one hard moment. Everything built something you may not fully see yet. Starting over in your 50s is fundamentally different from starting over at 25. At 25, you were still figuring out who you were while trying to build a life. At 50, you are not the same woman. You are informed. You know things now that took decades to learn. You are grounded. You know yourself in a way your younger self could not. You are intentional. You are not chasing everything that comes along. You are choosing deliberately. That is not starting over. That is starting with everything. So here's what I want you to take from this. Stop dismissing your experience. Every role you held, every challenge you have navigated, every year you have lived, it all counts. Stop calling it starting over. That language minimizes everything you are bringing with you. You are not starting over. You are redirecting, rebuilding, reimagining with everything you already have. Trust what you have built, even if it does not look like what you expected, even if the path took longer than you planned, even if you are standing somewhere completely different from where you thought you would be. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not starting from zero. This is a fresh start, not a blank slate. You're starting with everything. If you are in a season of reinvention right now, if you are navigating a transition or a fresh start of any kind, I want you to know that what you've built matters. And I created a workshop for women in exactly this moment. The link is below. Come see the strength you may have been overlooking your whole life.